Welcome to the channel, and today I want to talk about the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I've had this phone now for a few weeks and I wanted to make a sort of retrospective review of the phone, talking about the new design, the new features, and the things that I've liked and not liked about it since I've had it. So just for some perspective, before I had this phone I was using the iPhone 10, and some of the things that I talk about I am going to be comparing with that. So if you are using an iPhone from a few years ago and maybe you're thinking it's time to upgrade to one of the newer models, hopefully you find this video useful. So let's get started and talk about the new design. The design this year has been refreshed and updated, and the iPhone now takes on some of the design elements of the iPad Pro. You've got the flat band around the edge now, the flat screen on the front, the flat back, no more curved glass around the edge of the screen now, curving around to the side. Overall, it's a very sleek and minimalist and elegant design. It's really nice. It's almost like a more modern version of the iPhone 4 or the iPhone 5 from a few years ago, if you used one of those. In terms of things that have remained the same, we've still got the same notch at the top. It hasn't changed size, so it's the same height and the same width. And on the bottom of the device, we've still got everyone's favourite lightning connector, which may be the last time that we see the lightning connector on an iPhone. There's been quite a lot of rumours lately that the next iPhone won't have a port at all, so no USB-C, no lightning, nothing. So maybe this is the last iPhone to even have a port. So this is the first Max or plus size iPhone that I've gone for. Before now, I've always gone for the standard size, and the display on this is kind of massive, and I'm not gonna lie, it took some time to get used to, even for me and my comically large hands. I can't fully use this thing one-handed. I do have a little get around for the home screen. I've put a medium-sized widget at the top of the screen, so that's pushed all the apps down, and now I can pretty much reach them all fairly easily one-handed. But what I definitely can't do one-handed is get to notification center or control center, so it's not the most usable if you want to use it with just one hand. As you can see, I went for the silver version of the 12 Pro Max. I really like the new Pacific Blue colour iPhone, but for me, I've always preferred either just the black or the white iPhone. If I want to add a colour to the phone, I'd rather put a case on it than outright just buy a phone with the colour that I want, because I tend to sort of change my mind after the fact. So if I just get a white or a black iPhone, I can put a case with a colour that I want on the back, and yeah, the little cutout at the back will be black or white, so I don't get sort of like a weird combination of colours, if that makes sense. Maybe that's a bit weird, but that's just me. One thing I will mention though is on the silver model, you do of course get the silver stainless steel band around the outside. It does get very grubby and dirty quite quickly, so maybe if you get the space grey or the Pacific Blue, that might hide it a little better. Let me know below actually, I'm curious. Do the space grey and the Pacific Blue iPhones show fingerprints as badly on the silver version? I'm kind of curious to know. Let me know if you got one and how it looks. You could of course, to get around this, put the phone in a case or put a skin on it to hide that if it bothers you. I think it would have been nice if the finish was more like a matte finish, so you wouldn't have this problem at all, kind of like on the iPhone 12 series. But I'm guessing that they wanted something to differentiate the Pro from the 12, so that's why they went for it. Bit more shiny, bit more bold, and yeah, just a bit more sort of stand out. So next up, I'd like to talk about the display. Now, the display in any smartphone is arguably one of the most important features. It's the thing that you spend the most time looking at, so it's got to be decent. Is it good in the 12 Pro Max? In short, yes. The brightness of it gets really bright in direct sunlight. Colours look really vivid. HDR content also looks especially great. I was watching Into the Spider-Verse the other day, and yeah, it looks amazing. Like the colours were really vibrant and punchy. Contrast ratios were really good. Not a lot of bad things I can say about the display on this. The one thing that I would mention though is this generation of iPhone still does have a 60Hz display. There's no ProMotion 120Hz like we see in the iPad Pro at the moment, or indeed other phone manufacturers are moving to higher refresh rates. We've seen Samsung, Google and Huawei all using either 90 or 120Hz screens, so still stuck on 60Hz on the iPhone. In terms of the display size, as I mentioned, it's the biggest phone I've had, so it's much larger than the iPhone 10 that I had before. The iPhone 10 had a 5.8 inch display, and the 12 Pro Max has a 6.7 inch display, so big increase in size. As I said, took a bit of getting used to, but I've actually come to really appreciate the extra screen space now. Moving on to performance next, and the A14 Walnut chip is really fast. There's no lag, there's no stutter, apps open really quickly. Apps also stay open for longer too, so when you're multitasking and you're using the app switcher and you're switching back to a recently used app, or even to be honest, an app that you were using a few days ago, you'll find that it's still there in memory, it's just sort of waiting to be used, and yeah, it's really great. There's like no waiting around for things to load, it's ready to go. So if you are on an iPhone from a few years ago and it's starting to feel a bit slow now, consider upgrading, because even from a 3-year-old phone, I've definitely noticed the performance increase. Apple made a really big deal about 5G when they announced this generation of phones, and I've not actually been able to test this yet because I don't live in a 5G area, so I can't really talk too much about it because I've not used it, but it's not actually one of the reasons why I bought the phone either. I already get really great coverage and speed on 4G, but I guess it's nice to have for future proofing, so when 5G does come to the area, I'll be all set. The biggest reason why I upgraded from the iPhone X was the camera system. I really like to take pictures on the go. The camera system on the 12 Pro Max is a big improvement over the iPhone X. The iPhone X, of course, had the dual camera system set up, and on the iPhone 12 Pro series you get a triple camera setup since they added the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone 11 in the previous generation. I quite like the sort of more stylized look you can get from this lens. It adds a lot more versatility to the whole camera system and gives you even more options when shooting. With the 10, to get a look like this, you would need to use a lens attachment, so it's definitely more convenient and faster now to have it built in. The wide camera is the one which you'll probably use most of the time. Seeing it side by side with the 10, you can see how it better handles scenes with a wide dynamic range using Smart HDR3. The grass is a little brighter on the Max, and you can see how the clouds on the 10 are just starting to blow out in the highlights. You can also see how the Max is much sharper than the 10, although sometimes this can be a little too aggressive and it sort of looks a bit artificial. For the first time on an iPhone, you now get a 2.5x telephoto on the Max versus a 2x on the 10 and the smaller 12 Pro. This gives the telephoto a slightly longer reach, but it's not, to be honest, something that matters too much to me. It's not that much of a difference, and it will make shooting in smaller spaces a little bit more difficult now. In this indoor shot, you can again see the highlights blowing out on the 10. You can also see how both phones differ slightly on white balance. The 10 has a slight bluish hue to it, whereas the Max is a little bit warmer, but overall I'd say the Max is more accurate to how the scene was in real life. This of course comes down to personal preference as well, so let me know which one you prefer. The 12 Pro Max actually has a slightly better wide camera than the standard iPhone Pro 12. It has a 47% larger sensor with larger pixels. Apple says that means it can take 87% better low light photos, which is a bit of a weird sort of thing to put a number on, but okay. It does also get another feature, and that is sensor shift stabilization as opposed to optical image stabilization that it's had in the past. I can't compare the two because I don't have both phones, but I have noticed, particularly for video, compared to the iPhone X, it's much smoother and much less sort of shaky. Some of that is some of the software coming into play, but yeah, it looks really great. It's like almost like you've got a handheld gimbal, and it's just really smooth video. There's nothing bad to say about it. Another new feature that's exclusive to both the 12 Pro models is you can now shoot Dolby Vision HDR video. It looks really amazing. It's really vibrant, really colourful. I think it's 60 times more colours or something crazy. It looks really nice. Like watching it back on this display, it's really colourful, really vibrant, just really nice. Some other features which, while not new to this generation, are new to me coming from the iPhone X include night mode and deep fusion, and night mode's really cool. It lets you take like a photo in a low light condition and makes it basically look like a normal picture. It's pretty crazy the sort of computational photography that these phones do now to sort of get the pictures made, and yeah, the results are really impressive. So a really nice improvement to have coming from the iPhone X. And just to round off talking about the camera, I just want to talk about the LiDAR sensor on the back of the Pro models. The LiDAR sensor uses light to judge distance. Apple says they use it for augmented reality to help better map the space that you're in for placing AR objects. I've not really used it for that other than to sort of play around, but the other thing it's used for is focusing in the camera. So when you're in a low light situation and the camera can't grab focus as easy, it uses the LiDAR sensor to work out how far away the subject is, and yeah, I've definitely noticed better low light focusing compared to the iPhone 10. So one last thing I want to talk about, and that is MagSafe. MagSafe is an array of magnets in the back of the device which is used to perfectly align accessories. So for example, if you have a charger that supports MagSafe, when you bring the iPhone towards the charger, it will just sort of snap on and perfectly align with the magnetic charging coils. So you should get a more efficient wireless charge. And the other thing is third parties can make accessories too. So I know that Belkin and Moment are making accessories. I've actually got some pre-orders with Moment, so when those arrive, I can't wait to try them out and see how they work. As well as the MagSafe charger, Apple also has some other MagSafe accessories. For example, they have the MagSafe wallet, which just sort of like snaps onto the back of the phone and it's just sort of there, and you can put your cards in it and take it off when you don't want it. So it's kind of nifty, really. They also stack together as well, so if you have a MagSafe case, you can put the wallet on top of the case, but you can't charge through the wallet, so just remember that. I am looking forward to what other companies make for MagSafe. I think it's got like a lot of potential, but it does sort of feel like this is Apple preemptively solving the problem of not having a port on the bottom of the phone, so we'll see how that turns out, but I am excited to see what comes of MagSafe. Overall, I'm really impressed with the 12 Pro Max. It's a big improvement over the iPhone 10. I love the new design, the performance is great, the cameras are fantastic. I wasn't quite sure at first if the Pro Max would be right for me because of its size, it is so large. It took a bit of time getting used to it, but now I don't think I could go back to a smaller phone. I really like having the extra screen space. And the battery life too is great. I get about 2 days of battery life on this, and when I can travel again, it'll be great to not have to worry about charging this thing all the time. If you're not sure whether to go for the 12 Pro or the 12 Pro Max, I'd say think more about what screen size you want and what sort of battery life you'd be happy with. Because although there are some changes in the camera system, from what I've seen at least, they're not like a game changer. It's not a huge difference. So think more about the sort of the size of device you want and what sort of battery life and screen size that you'd be happy with. Because for a lot of people, this phone is going to just be too big. It's not like an easy to handle thing. So if you're using an iPhone 10 and you've been considering upgrading to either the 12 Pro or the 12 Pro Max, I'm really happy with it overall. So definitely consider it, and if you're using an even older iPhone, you're going to see even bigger improvements than I have. So I think it's definitely worth it. I hope you found this video useful and helpful, and thanks so much for watching.